Alright, what's going on, guys? By the time this video goes live, Elden Ring Nightreign will be out in many parts of the world. And since it is already the most wishlisted game on Steam, there are going to be tons of people jumping in for the first time. And unlike any previous Fromsoftware game, Nightreign is primarily played in teams. Yes, there is a solo mode, but the majority of the time, you will be in a group of 3. So it's very important to understand not only how the game works, but to be a good contributor to your team. So today I want to go over several essential things you need to know when jumping into Elden Ring Nightreign so that you can start winning your runs and being a valuable Nightfarer. But as we get started today, if you want to stay up to date on all things Elden Ring Nightreign, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and now let's get into it. Let me go ahead and say here right at the beginning, this video will be spoiler free. I will not be showing anything past the first Night Lord, but these general playstyle tips and things to keep in mind will stay constant throughout the entire game. So the first thing I want to talk about today is choosing your Nightfarer. Now I'm sure you can judge right off the bat generally what each Nightfarer specializes in, but do you know their exact stats? Let's go through the exact scaling each character has, not only starting out with their stats, but also when you level up. Wilder has an A scaling in HP, C in FP, B in Stamina, A in Strength, B in Dex, and a C in Intelligence, Faith, and Arcane. So this makes Wilder a very balanced character with a focus on strength weapons, but you won't want to be using any magic with him. Guardian has an S in HP, a C in FP, A in Stamina, B in Strength, C in Dex, D in Intelligence, and a C in Faith and Arcane. So that means his primary playstyle is as a tank to take aggro. Duchess has a C in HP, a B in FP, D in Stamina, D in Strength, B in Dex, A in Intelligence, B in Faith, and a C in Arcane. So she is a sort of glass cannon build, but what you may not realize at first glance is that her highest stat is actually Intelligence. So despite primarily being a Dex user, she is also very viable for sorceries, which is important to keep in mind. Recluse has a D in HP, an A in FP, C in Stamina, D in Strength, C in Dex, S in both Intelligence and Faith, and then a C in Arcane. So you can see very apparently that you don't want to be wielding weapons with her. She wants to stay out of the fight casting spells. Iron Eye has a C in HP and FP, a B in Stamina, a C in Strength, an A in Dex, a D in Intelligence and Faith, and then a B in Arcane. Now you can obviously tell that Iron Eye is built to be an archer, staying outside the fight and providing damage from afar. Raider has an A in HP, a B in FP, an A in Stamina, an S in Strength, C in Dex, D in Intelligence and Faith, and then a C in Arcane. So it's very clear that Raider's intended playstyle is to find the biggest weapon possible and go toe-to-toe with the boss. And finally we have Executor, who has a B in HP, a D in FP, a B in Stamina, a C in Strength, S in Dexterity, a D in both Intelligence and Faith, and then an S in Arcane as well. Now Executor is a bit of an anomaly, because while this is the ideal character for someone who wants to primarily use Dexterity weapons, to get the most out of this character you need to make use of the Deflect stance with the Cursed Sword ability. So personally, I would not recommend using this character until you learn how to deflect. But if you want to learn more about Executor, we just made an entire breakdown on this character, so check out that last video. But by understanding these stat distributions, you can understand which character is right for your playstyle. This is very important, so definitely keep that in mind when loading in. But on top of understanding the stat distributions, you need to understand the ability utility of each character. Now the game does a great job at explaining what each character's abilities are. Each Nightfarer has one passive ability, one minor ability, and one ultimate ability, and these generally work in favor with the intended playstyle of their stats. Wilder, for example, has the grapple hook to pull enemies closer, which favors his standard fighter playstyle, as well as the big pile bunker to do big damage on bosses. So his are pretty straightforward. But a character like Duchess, for example, has very team-oriented abilities. Her minor ability replays damage done for the last few seconds, which works really well when used, for example, after a character like Wilder's ultimate, while her ultimate ability cloaks the team in stealth, giving them a chance to escape from a dangerous fight or get a better position. So one thing you need to understand about these abilities is how they work in tandem with other Nightfarers. Raider's ultimate, for example, summons this massive gravestone out of the ground, which characters can hop on top of. This provides a passive buff to your allies that stand around it, but can also make an excellent perk for a character like Iron Eye to shoot arrows from. So it's extremely important that you understand how the abilities work and how they complement other characters' abilities. Now before you even start your run, there's a few things you're going to want to check. When hovering above the hunt you want to go on, over on the right side of the screen, you will be able to see the boss weakness, such as Libra here being weak to Frenzy. So when you're out on your run, you'll want to look for weapons or spells that deal that kind of damage. You will also be able to see what earth events are going on and how Limveld is going to change eventually through your game. So don't forget to check that important information. So now let's talk moment-to-moment gameplay. Immediately, every single run is going to begin in a pretty similar way. The first thing you will want to do every single time, almost without any other variables, is to go hit a very minor enemy camp. These will be at the beginning and have small fodder enemies that will go down in 1 to 2 hits. This will give you enough runes to level up to at least 2 or 3, which will then give you enough power to start fighting other enemies. You do not want to go straight to a boss without leveling up a few times first. The chances that you're going to die if you do are extremely high, and since you're doing so little damage, it's going to take you just as long as it would to have raided those small camps to kill that boss at level 1 even on a perfect run. A successful Elden Ring Nightreign run is all about momentum, and you can't start that snowball effect without working from the bottom up. Things are going to go much better for you if you take that extra 1 minute right at the start. Now as you start getting the hang of the game and exploring the world, there are a lot of extra things aside from bosses that you'll want to look out for. For example, Carian Rises have a little puzzle to do at the bottom, but are great places to find either magic weapons or an upgrade to your FP. Teardrop Scarabs out in the world can drop talismans, which do not take up any inventory slots and can provide really good passive buffs. If you have a weapon that you're really enjoying, that has good abilities and you want to keep and upgrade, then you may want to go explore mines, as there you can find smithing stones to upgrade that weapon, or look for merchants who might be selling them, and other useful items as well. But perhaps the most important thing you can find on the map that you will absolutely want to take the trip and visit are Churches of Marika, where there you will be able to gain an extra healing flask, and it may be even worth venturing into the storm to find, because when you grab that extra flask charge it will replenish your health. Definitely do not forget about those. But now let's get into a bit more advanced things. I know we talked about stat distributions at the beginning of the video, but that really only applies to the weapon you're going to be using to attack. In Nightreign, every single item has some kind of passive buff, and there's no carry weight limit, so you'll want to always have your inventory full. Now if you kill a boss, and it drops items that you don't plan on using, still at least fill those inventory slots out to maximize your buffs. For example, I'm playing as Wilder here and I don't plan on using a shield. I'm going to be two-handing my weapon. But I found this Visage shield that provides a 10% damage buff when wielding two-handed. That's a really good buff for my build. So even though I'm not going to use this shield, I'm still going to keep it just for that buff. And at many times those passive buffs are more important than the weapon itself that you're wielding. So always keep an eye on those. And you may not always just want to go for what does more damage. Now perhaps the most important aspect of any Elden Ring Nightreign run, if you forget everything in this video, just remember this one tip: stay with your team. There may be times where you have to run off by yourself, but the vast majority of the run you're going to want to be by your teammates. But how do you communicate with players if you're playing with randoms? Well, the game actually gives you some pretty helpful tools to do that. Markers are your best friend. You're going to want to be using these throughout your entire game. As soon as you defeat a boss or clear out an area, you need to mark where to head next, or be on the lookout for one of your teammates placing a mark on their next location. Nightreign is all about being quick and efficient, and if you're not using your markers, you're going to be doing a lot of guessing to figure out where your teammates are or are headed, and that's going to waste a lot of time. But they're not only used to signify directions. You can use them to mark weapons that your teammates could use or powerful items, but mastering these markers is an absolute necessity. But now let's say you put all of these into practice. You made it to the final boss, the Night Lord on night 3, and you end up beating him. Once you get that victory achieved screen, you are then going to see your rewards. And here you're going to get a combination of relics and the game's new currency, Merc. When you get back to the Roundtable Hold, here you'll be able to not only work with your relics, but also spend your Merc at the Jar Bazaar to get things like new relic slots for your character, relic mystery packs, and even new skins. But let's talk about relics for a minute. Each character is going to start out having color-coded slots for their relics. relics. These can be changed later on, but these are much more in-depth than simple buffs. This is where the majority of your build crafting is going to take place. So to get the most out of these relics, you want to combine ones that work in tandem with each other. For example, if I equip a relic that improves fire damage, I might also equip another relic that makes great swords without an enchantment deal fire damage. Or if I use a relic that makes my healing flask also heal my teammates, I might also equip a relic that makes me do additional damage when at full health. These are just examples though, so you get the idea. Now when it comes to the essentials to understand how to play the game, that's really all you need to know, but here's an additional tip that's going to give you an extra edge over your runs. Use a password, even if you're not playing with friends. Now for those of us on this channel, we're going to be using the password ZSTRM. Now why do I recommend using this password? Well, it means you're going to queue in with players that have at least watched this video and know the basic best practices at least. I'll be running this password, so you may even queue in with me, so hopefully we can take out these Night Lords together. But even if you don't want to use this password, there are going to be a lot of other passwords out there that can bring players who are really in tune with the Souls games together so that everybody can have more efficient runs. I know reviews are out, and one of the things that everybody's saying is that random queuing is rough, so hopefully this can help alleviate that and bring us all together. But by understanding the simple points made in this video and putting them into practice, that's going to work wonders for making you have more efficient runs. And if everybody on your team does these things, then your chances of beating that Night Lord are significantly higher. But if you have other tips and tricks that were not mentioned in this video, definitely leave them down in the comments section below so that we can help everybody. So I hope to see you guys out there in Limveld, and if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here, and I will catch you in the next one.